Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from, I don't even have a word for it. I'm in Ethiopia. Uh, I don't know, adequate Addis Ababa? It's been a very long trip. I was in South Africa, in lovely Cape Town. I went to Zanzibar, went to Burundi, and now I'm here in Ethiopia. And this is the first time where I've had somewhat decent internet, at least decent enough to try a live stream. And I apologize for that. Internet's a little difficult in Africa from time to time, but we managed to get a signal out. And I miss you. I miss the community. I miss talking to you guys. I miss giving you an update. I really miss the dialogue. I miss the AMAs. It's my favorite thing in the entire world. And so hopefully y'all can hear me well. Hopefully you can see me well. But let's get this party on the road. All right. First, a brief update. We had a gargantuan buildup in the month of September for the launch of Alonzo and then the Cardano Summit. The summit was an overwhelming success. Over 100,000 people registered and attended the digital event. Thousands attended the physical events. And we had a chance to really showcase, I think, over 200 or 300 presentations, somewhere around there. Really just the heart of the Cardano community and how large things had become. Alonzo was a great success as a hard fork. There were a few missing features that had to be added as well, and we added them in October. And now we're in the final stages of the integration of the Plutus application backend. Now, what's going to happen with the Plutus application backend is that you go from the assembly experience of Plutus to the high-level language experience of Plutus and all the connecting tissue. And as a consequence, a lot of these applications that are being built, like Sunday Swap and Meld and so forth, they're going to start coming in and they're going to start deploying. So that means that that whole stack is going to be under a lot of scrutiny, stress, and there's going to be a great update and iteration cycle. So between the months of November and February with the Babbage hard fork, there's going to be a boatload of changes and refinements and optimizations and so forth. There's a layered execution strategy with Cardano. So John Woods, the lead technical architect of Cardano, he's focused right now for the next 6 months on his work stream with optimization, improvements of performance, more throughput, and scaling up system parameters. Okay, so things like K, things like the block size, all of that stuff. Reducing the memory footprint, perhaps by more than 50%. Litany of changes with how the data structures work in the system. UTXO HD, where there's a hybrid storage of memory and hard drive, and these things for the UTXO. Script compression. There's dozens of things that are done in that agenda. There's other parties that are going to come in. They're going to optimize a lot of the Haskell code as well because it was written once for correctness, and now it needs to be optimized for performance. So that's one layer of work stream. Another layer of work stream is Mithril, and that's underway. Huge amount of work. Idyllic Labs and Galwa are working diligently on that, along with our engineers. And that's the light client solution. So that's full node security with light client experience. It also means parallel validation of epochs, so much faster Daedalus. Another effort is improving the experience of Daedalus, the full node, and also adding in light client support on our end, I/O, as well as improving the light client ecosystem overall. So that's another work stream that's going on. Okay, then there's the Hydra work stream that's going on. And if you guys attended the Cardano Summit, you would have seen the Hydra work stream and where we're at. And the goal is to have something by Q1 that's a good beta that then can be attached to commercial partners like DEXs and other such things so that they can begin exploring how one would offload traffic into the Hydra network for both payments and for state, so for smart contracts. So there's all that. There's Mamba. And our current deadlines and timetables show that we think we can have a beta of that experience for developers to begin playing with as early as January. Okay, and Mamba adds in EVM support. It also adds in Yella support. Okay, so that's another layer that's going on. Governance is another layer that's going on. So Catalyst is about to become recursive over the next few funds. Each fund, Catalyst becomes more recursive. What that effectively means is that the community sets the parameters for the next round, and every aspect of Catalyst is completely community controlled. There is the emergence of Cardano, the open source project. So basically, it goes from a collection of custodial entities writing code to an open source ecosystem with many contributors across the board. There are over 12 development companies right now. Eventually, there's going to be hundreds, if not thousands, of contributors like the Linux kernel has. So there's a series of processes that are underway to do that, to move from separate commercial code from reference code and further iterate, refine the CIP process, including all the on-chain stuff for voting. Okay, so that's another thread that's going on. There's the certification process. So when you write a smart contract, verify that the smart contract is correct by construction and certify it against the proof standards. That's another thread that's going on. There's all the identity integrations that you may have noticed. FATF and Treasury Department and others are starting to really dial up the DeFi regulation. That means compliance is coming. So you need an identity solution to accommodate that. So full Prism integration into the Cardano stack, that's been underway because of the Ministry of Education deal, the Boost Mobile deal, 13 million users there that are being brought into the ecosystem. So that's another thread that's going on. The dApp store, that's another thread that's been going on. We presented at the Cardano Summit these things. So, there's so many moving pieces, and I could keep adding and adding and adding, but it's getting to a point it would take 2 hours to talk about all this stuff. There's more than, I think, 300-400 people that are executing. The foundation is also scaling up dramatically. They announced at the summit a $25 million budget for 2022. And that means they're going to hire and maintain a staff of almost 100 people to take over and augment and add to the ecosystem that's already there. There's also a lot of negotiations, discussions about Mergo creating at least $100 million fund that is Africa focused to start building out an ecosystem there to augment, complement what we're doing with the $6 million Africa fund and what IO is doing with the C fund. Catalyst, over 150 proposals were funded in Fund 6. Largest fund yet. They keep growing. The size is doubling again. $8 million Fund 7 starting in November. Okay, that's another thread that's going on. You see, so it's a very busy ecosystem now, and there's many, many people waking up in many walks of life that are working extremely hard at growing, iterating, refining this ecosystem. Now, with success comes criticism. We've noticed post-conference a fairly significant wave of social media criticism that's come. Usually it stems around price, and that's to be expected. There's usually a big buildup and some draw off, and some people think that that's the worst thing in the world. I do not care, and I frankly don't read it, don't engage with it, interface with it, any of these things. And no one, I think, in the ecosystem really cares at this point. Every single metric of Cardano is looking real strong, every metric. And, this Africa tour, we've met now with 2 heads of state, the president of Burundi and the president of Zanzibar. Zanzibar is politically semi-autonomous. Burundi is obviously its own nation. And there's overwhelming demand for what Cardano offers in the e-governance domain and the identity domain. And there's a lot of excitement about Catalyst in particular. We've met with a lot of startup accelerators and incubators. There's a huge flow of businesses that want to build on Cardano, that actually think it's a good idea. And we're here. We probably are going to have dozens of deals that come out of all the meetings that we've had here in Africa, and we're struggling to find the resources to accommodate them. And that's just our reality as one company, one member of the Cardano ecosystem. We see the dApps being built on Cardano. Many of them are now funded. For example, the World Mobile project over in Zanzibar has $40 million of capital. They are deploying a nation-scale ISP with Cardano at the bedrock of it that will cover 1.8 million people. And I expect that rollout from touring the sites and looking at their technology to take about 12 to 24 months. We're already in discussions about how we can port that to Kenya and examine other jurisdictions like Burundi, which only at the moment has 2.6% connectivity. Train's moving. And there's great ventures that are exploring these things, like KBI, for example, Promote Viswana's venture. There's others like DC Spark, another company that's run by Nico and Seba, and they've just announced EVM sidechain in the ecosystem, independent of the Mamba sidechain. So people are already starting to write Solidity code that can be executed and fueled and powered by ADA. Okay, there's tens of thousands of NFTs that have been issued in the last 2 months, and over $100 million, I think, of economic activity surrounding the NFTs. So apparently our native asset standard is quite popular there, and it's growing in scope. So that's just a brief update. It's hard to completely stay connected to everything because we're doing so much work here in Africa. It's currently 9:42 p.m. We got up at 5 a.m. Every day's been this way, and we've been pushing and pushing and pushing. Minister this, minister that, company this, company that, ambassador this, ambassador that. Some of these ambassadors really do enjoy drinking. And so I packed an extra liver just to make sure I could get through it. And obviously, being in Africa, some of the food sometimes does cause some issues. And we've had a few people already down on the trip with food poisoning, but we've managed to push and power our way through. And we're real excited for the remaining 2 countries in the trip. All right, it's an AMA. Let's get to your questions, kids.